Death be not proud.
You smell that in it? That's arrogance. Coming back to the world of hobby Q&A. Basically, I'm going to talk about collecting today. There's a very good article in this issue of Wargames Illustrated on collecting. And I found finding myself in the same boat as this guy who wanted to collect samurai. Seems like, people want to do their own thing, and you only have two choices. When you go to a hobby store, you have some privateer, or you have everything by GW. They don't. And if you're getting into the hobby, I would suggest picking up one of these and reading a couple articles out of this magazine. It's a really good magazine, and you'll find out just how expansive the world of miniatures actually is. There's more than just privateer and GW. There's more than the big guys on the block. There's also Reaper. That's a third option that's always there in most hobby stores. But this guy. The article is called Wargaming, The Way of the Warrior, and it's samurai. Basically, this guy wanted to play samurai, and he found himself not having any opponents. He found himself not being able to play with anyone, but he still collected. So I'm going to go over this article briefly. We're going to go to the tabletop. We're going to take a look at models that I have collected, because I saw myself in the same boat as him, wanting to collect historicals. I found myself kind of shying away from 40K a little bit, and things that are GW just a little bit, not much. Like I'll still get like orcs and goblins out on the table, and I'll play them and every now and then. But like buying new figs from GW, well, there's nothing really that I want. I've noticed that one thing that's turned me off is that the miniatures have gotten larger. You're not painting miniatures anymore. You're painting action figure size models, and you're putting them on the table. I've noticed that, some of the miniatures, like the Primaris Space Marines, are actually going towards being Ogre Kingdom size models as opposed to miniatures, which is okay if you want your models to be bigger. But I'm kind of old school. I like true scale 25mm heroics and 28mm. That's where I want to stay. I have some friends that have a bunch of Flames of War 15mm stuff and everything, but I just like my comfort zone is 28mm and 25mm heroic. That's where I like to stay. And the bigger the model, the more it turns me off. It's okay to have the one stomp every now and then, but we're going to go through this article, and we'll be back. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see any of this and all that, but you can see the article right here. It starts on page 14, and basically this is some of my thoughts and decisions you will face when collecting samurai armies. I also want to share with you why I think wargaming in feudal Japan is so worth the effort. And then I said, he goes through, he talks about like the first shogunate, the Genpei period and everything, and about how like samurai were. You get a little history lesson with this. It's a very good article about how they were mounted horse archers before they were the sword-wielding ronin in the movies like with Toshiro Mifune, like Yojimbo, which inspired Fistful of Dollars and everything, and Seven Samurai, that inspired The Magnificent Seven, starring Yul Brynner. And because you can't top a performance by Yul Brynner or Toshiro Mifune. Toshiro Mifune had 107 movies over his belt, but he goes through and he talks about the frustrations and everything, but when you get to here, from duels to armies, he said, I started to collect skirmish level factions. So these guys would work for this shogun, those guys would work for the other shogun, and we'd play these skirmish games with my friends every now and then. And I found myself in a parallel with this article. Basically, I got into historics with my Greeks a long time ago. And then, I was never doing anything with them. I even tried to sell them a number of times, but I wasn't going to let them go for a low price. And then, so he collected some skirmish forces, So over here, he's got a captain on a chariot. You've got some barbarians. You've got some cavalry. And then over here, we have some Romans, a commander, and some Praetorian Guard. It's nothing special, but he worked his way up from that. And he was using the Mordheim system from Games Workshop. He just modified the rules a little bit, and he goes on to say that they had a good time and everything, and he said it never really stopped me from collecting, not having a lack of opponents. He says I started to collect both sides of a conflict. You see what I've done there? I have both sides of a conflict. I have Imperial Romans and I have Ancient Britons, or Boudicca's hordes. And so I found myself in a huge parallel with this guy. And then he goes on to say when he finally had an army level, let's say this was one army, you know, those guys are auxiliary or anything. When I went on to have an army level amount of guys, he would start playing Warhammer Fantasy, proxying them in as Empire. And so he never, and that's over here on page 18 where he talks about how he never let that stop him from collecting his samurai. He kept going. And then the most interesting part about this is that he went down and he started to talk about how he just started to collect two opposing sides. And I think that is so true today, you know, that you need to have two opposing sides, because, you know, I have some good friends out there. They're all good friends, but they have a fuck you attitude sometimes. I don't want to play that. I'm not doing that. That shit's gay. You know, so basically, you know, now that I have two sides, I can always kind of get myself a game whenever I want to do historics. It's a lot of work, but you'll find that painting historics is a lot easier than painting an action figure sized model. First off, I want you to note every single Roman in this unit. Everybody's the same guy. I don't have to do a lot of work. I mean, basically this is where all my detail is. It's on the back and nobody's going to see this. I could do less detail if I wanted to. I could quickly dry brush it and just strong tone it, and that's it. I mean, I did 2 shades of color, and then I soft tone inked it. 2 shades of brown, 2 shades of metal, painted the shields white, put the transfers on after they were done, then I just put static grass on the base. And then, you know, with the Celts, I wanted to expand them a little bit because I wanted hordes of Celts. So I took these little bases here, I put these guys on 3 to a base, and that counts as 6 infantry. So when I want to put these guys in normal, like kings, and I've left myself open for options. I have tons of single Celts that I have to paint up still, and I need 8 to make a regiment. Or whereas if I'm doing a horde, I only need 4. If I'm doing a legion, I only need like 8, I believe. I'd have to count again. But I've left myself a lot of options with the singles. And then over here on the cavalry, I have a full regiment of cavalry, 5 guys. That counts as 10 in the Kings of War system. This can also count as a group of 10 to 12. Oh, just 10, sorry. In Hail Caesar, because again, bases don't really matter, at least where I come from. You know, so this is just quick thoughts on that and everything, on collecting miniatures. When you really want to do something, you should go for it. And you shouldn't let people who try to discourage you stop you at all, because there were a lot of people, I got a lot of disparaging and discouraging marks from some of my friends about doing this, and you know, it's something that I've actually enjoyed doing. So, you know, if you, this issue, we're going to take a look here. Wargames Illustrated, and they got a little article about Travel Battle that was kind of interesting. And the good thing about this is there's something to read in these magazines. You get a little bit of history. They have one awesome part about this is that they have suggested readings that you can look over, but I would suggest picking up this issue because it's really helped me out. You know, it's made me realize that I've already done the right thing by collecting 2 sides of a conflict, and I can continue to expand on these. Another advantage to collecting 2 sides, you know, I mean, I might have 2,000 points of Celts and I might have 2,000 points of Romans, but I could go bigger, and I could keep going bigger, you know, because I have another 8 feet, I have another 8 whole feet of table out there that I can use and make the biggest battle ever in my own basement, because I also have enough terrain between Celts and Britons. So when collecting, you shouldn't be afraid to just collect 2 sides of a conflict, and we're going to go to the next subject. So I really think that a good starter point is a 2-player box set. This is just a good skirmish right here. I've recently just got to get a cannon. That's about it, because the organ gun is a little overpowered for this scenario, but I've had a lot of back and forth. The dwarves have won 4 so far, and these guys have held their own by winning at least 2. Actually 3. They're up to 3. So you know it hasn't been that bad. Especially now, it seems more even when you use the cannon now. But what I did here is that I went and bought the 2-player starter box. This is the best $84 that you're gonna spend when starting in Kings of War. Now you may have friends that don't want to play Kings of War, but if you have this little skirmish thing, you know, and let's say you don't have a lot of time, you can meet somebody for a quick game and then go have coffee, and this will literally only take you 25 minutes to play through the battle for Iron Hold. And so you get 20 skeletons, and you get the 20 zombies, and then you get a small clutch of ghouls, and then you get like 30 dwarves and a war machine. And in Hail Caesar, the Conquest of Gaul, you get something like 80 dramatic tribesmen, and then you get like 30 Romans. And that's a good starting point to start learning the system, and you can expand on the historicals relatively quickly. Because when you paint a Roman, it's a lot like painting a Night Goblin, and it's batch painting. This is all batch work. Nobody's going to notice a lot. The only good aesthetic that you have is the shield. And I think that you need to learn how to do transfers when you have Romans, but you don't have to, because they also have embossed shields that you can buy separately. Again, they have some transfers on there. Up here I ran out of transfers on for those guys, but the shields still look pretty good. They're nice bright red, good clash. And you know, so when you're starting in when you want to do something different, this article will help you, and it helped me a great deal, and I just found myself in a parallel with it, so I said, let's make a video about this and see what you think. But definitely go on eBay and take a look at the 2-player starter sets, and maybe we'll have a video about eBay in the next one when I feel like talking. Anyway, look forward to the next battle report, and we'll come up for a summation. Well, in any case, I hope that I've helped you in making some decisions. You know, if you're a beginner, you know, don't be discouraged. You know, you don't have to choose the plastic crap that is GW. You can actually go other directions. There are tons of options out there. You know, so again, if you're new to the hobby, I highly recommend this magazine, because you will see just how expansive the universe of miniature wargaming is. And this is a good guide to start off, and you know, it'll only set you back like $8, you know. But you know, if you get the 2-player starter box for Kings of War, you also get a rule book. So you know, you have a huge, comprehensive guide to all the current standing army lists without like buying anything else. But you know, let's say you go and you get the 2-player starter box, I would also pick up the historical supplement, because you know, you not only get that, you get this little still making history thing in the back here, and it shows you just how many options you have. You have Hittite levies, let's see here, Roman auxiliaries, Spartans, you know, and then you have all the current standing armies in the main rule book right here in the back. And it's just another resource to help you take your fantasies in the direction they want to go on the tabletop. You know, you can. Plus, this is really good for Deadliest Warrior campaigns and scenarios. In any case, I hope that I've helped you start collecting something, or helped you at least go get a publication to figure out what you want to do. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments section below, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. But until then, keep playing, keep fighting, and stay metal, my friends.